Okay, we'll call the meeting to order at 7:04. Can we all rise to say the pledge of allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Yes. We have Kate Beauprelant, the chairperson is here, Megan Wicks, vice chair, Kathy Grant, the secretary, Arika Kalwara is not making it, Valerie Musciano is not here, Sarah Thompson is not here, and Christopher Wilson is here. Also with us is Adam Burrows, superintendent, and Amy Cephalero, principal.
Thank you. And now I'll say the Board of Education mission statement. The Voluntown Board of Education mission is to provide our students the skills essential to reach their highest potential in a safe environment for learning as they aspire to become responsible, respectful, civic-minded members of society. We commit to help educate, challenge, and inspire each child to excel as lifelong learners who can adapt constructively in an ever-changing, multicultural, and technological world. Did we receive any citizens' comments?
No, no.
No guests present, so we can move on with their agenda. We have no scheduled guests, which is good. Just a quick review of our agenda. It's pretty standard, basically. There's not too many items from old business, and new business has a lot of policies, but they're brief if you've seen them. So you can open, they're all first readings, so we can take some time with that if we need. All right. So we will move to the consent agenda. We have nothing, if there's any questions about the consent items, or should we make a motion to approve as presented?
Second. Answer the question.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Move on to the administrative reports. We have a report from the principal, Miss Amy Cephalero.
My report was located in the board packet. It's pretty standard for this fall. We have a couple of things coming up. Just recently had an early dismissal. We had PD that afternoon. We worked on a couple of benchmark items with our staff. We have upcoming our book fair, a Grandparents' Day for our K-2 grandparents, Spirit Week, picture retakes. We have Veterans Day, parent-teacher conferences. So it's coming up in a short amount of time. So a lot of those notices have gone out, and we work for our school newsletter to make sure that people are notified of those things. Going back to fall sports, we were unable to secure the coach and head coach. However, we are currently still running a clinic with 2 individuals. So we're working with our students doing a clinic, and a lot of them are green, so it's good for them to get out and get that practice. Mr. Duncan, soccer, right? This is soccer, right? Mr. Duncan is also offering a basketball clinic on Friday, so it's giving them like 3 days of sports if they want to come in and do that before a little preseason before that happens. So that actually worked out well. And we'll work early in spring securing someone hopefully to come in and run our soccer program next fall. We celebrated Fire Safety Week. The Voluntown Fire Department came over, and so our younger students got to enjoy the fire truck. I worked with Jody. They came through. They get dressed. They get to see the truck, the ambulance, all those things. So that was like fun for them to do that. We completed our benchmark testing, and there are a couple of grade levels still that have to meet just due to absences, etc. But if you take a look at. If you take a look at where I'm at, so I gave you a copy of the STAR data that we've had for the past 7 years. Obviously, the gray in the middle is the 1920 year when COVID happened. So we don't have scores from there, but you can see some trend data over time. And so the last completed year was 22-23. So our 23-24 is up and coming. And Adam asked me, do you see any trends? What do you see in some of the data? And it is hard to tell. Our school size really depends, really indicates what happens with data. So we have some classes who are 15 only in an entire grade level, or we have classes who are 30, 31, and that really impacts on, where they're at. But overall, so our staff, we have looked at this already. And if you flip it over on the back side, this is currently what happened this fall. So coming out of their last grade level and then going into the next grade level. So this is like our baseline data. And so we really looked at that and what strategies are we using to look at kids in particular. We are small enough where we would look at each child and kind of hopefully target some of the missing pieces. We always talk about it being like Swiss cheese, like you're trying to plug those little holes so that way then they essentially move on and do better. So we'll see some growth. I'll report back in the winter and the spring, and then we'll see over time, hopefully changes. One of the things I said to Adam, what's interesting in the STAR, and we talk about this with the faculty, is that for STAR, there's categories of colors and where kids are. So red being the lowest and dark green being the highest. And you want kids to move. Your student in red isn't going to get to dark green in 1 year. So you want that student in red hopefully to raise their percentile rank and have growth and maybe move to blue. And so though they might not be at green or dark green, just the movement is showing progress. So you're looking for growth in that manner. A couple of things coming up. So if you put that one aside, we are working on so with this information, we have moved to the MTSS model, and that is just the new SRBI. And so we are moving to this multi-tiered system of support, and it includes behavior, it includes academic, and it includes emotional well-being. So it's this framework on how we're addressing kids and their needs. So we use the STAR data, and we use quite a few other benchmark assessments in this MTSS model. And you'll see on this pyramid, this is one of our draft pages. So Andrea Kelly, our interventionist, and I have been working in moving to this model. The pyramid shows what that looks like with academic and behavior, what % of your students should be in each category. Are we identifying too many, identifying not enough students that need that support? So this is just one piece of the puzzle that's going to be part of our MTSS model, which goes hand in hand, and you'll see the grid of our Voluntown Eagle SOAR. So this is going to be our behavior matrix. And so we are moving toward the PBIS model now as part of this, overall MTSS program. So we're really working on, Andrea and I and our committee have worked on what do we have for our kids, and what is that positive outcome for them when they're doing all the right things and they're doing what we expect of them. So this is a work in the making here. We're hoping that, as time goes on, we are able to implement this. What is it going to look like? Well, we've talked about, having kids, we're going to do popcorn once a month for the 4th through 8th graders when they're in the cafeteria. We're going to let the younger kids come down and watch a movie inside the gym on the one half. We talked about extra game times, having a dodgeball contest, those types of things to get kids drawn in and reap the benefit of doing well and being part of our school and our community. So those are things that we're working on as a staff and what we can do to recognize that. So I was working on ordering wristbands, so the little kids love those, so we'll get those. We'll do an assembly, you'll do all the same value, you probably know a lot about it, just because it's really big in Facebook too, like that really like camaraderie of coming together. So that will, that's all in the process. There's a few of us that we're trying to get it off the ground and go with it. Our 7th and 8th grade are bringing back, we used to have soaring eagles for 7th and 8th grade a long time ago. We're bringing back a modified version of that. So that's really driven by behavior, expectations, and academics. And so, every 6-week period, they will have an incentive. So since COVID, we started walking with them to Duncan. They've said that's great. So we are going to use that as one of our incentives now. They'll get to walk to Duncan, they'll get to, you know, they like to hang out on Constitution Field together. They like to hang out in the front, and walk and do those types of things. So we will do that every 6 to 8 weeks of our trimester. And for our friends who need to revamp their grades and that, they'll have an opportunity during that time period. And for other people who are, you know, have their grades up and, you know, behaviorally have succeeded, then we'll have a different plan for that. So that's part of it. One of the other pieces is our our adult mentoring program. So we do a mentoring program, and it's not very widely publicized. Once COVID came and then Rachel took over. But we do have a mentoring program for anybody in the community. So if you know community members who would like to come in, it's hard, it's during the school day. So unless you have a flexible job, it makes it difficult. But we do have some who come. And a lot of times it's our staff, and that's its own difficult to mentor someone when you have different periods of time off. But we do have a mentoring program, so anybody is welcome to come and, you know, have to be a mentor. We go through a mentoring process. Our counselor trains them, we go through the DCF process, etc. One of the items that I did want to talk about that came up last board meeting and I wasn't here, and Adam asked me just to kind of go over, was the process for our IEP and 504 plan. So on the heels of MTSS, which is formerly known as SRBI and RTI and all these things, when a child goes through this process and it's determined that we need to go to PPT and decided have testing, if they need an IEP or a 504, if they qualify for that, we then go to a meeting, have a meeting, determine what modifications, accommodations, etc. are needed. Once that happens, teachers are provided the modifications, the accommodations, access to the IEP. They review that with case managers. Our 504s are managed by our counselor, so she oversees all of them, even if the child doesn't have counseling. It's kind of a natural thing for a counselor to be in charge of those. So she manages all of those plans, and we have 4 case managers who manage all of the rest of the plans. So they work closely with our regular ed team to ensure that all those pieces are followed. I implemented this year a binder system, though it may seem tedious because as a teacher, you have lots of things to do, but it's really important that we are attentive to the modifications and accommodations that are required in IEPs and 504. So we implemented a binder system, and our staff is using that as their record keeping, you know, and going through. It's much easier to have it in front of you to be able to check and make sure that you're checking and making sure students' needs are met. So it came up last time, so I just wanted to make sure that it was clear on what our process is now for those things to happen. I think that's really it. That was really the essence of my report. One of the things that we are working on this year, and it will be just ongoing, is we have to work on so they recently published some social studies curriculum standards, like probably 2 days ago. The state has adopted a new set of standards, so we need to work on that. We need to work on revamping our science again and making sure those align, so they come in a cyclical type of process. We need to work on a report card. So there's like a long laundry list of things to, you know, work and complete, and we're gonna doing that, chipping away little by little on each of those pieces. So
We just did reading last year, well, that was a couple years
Yes.
ago, but
yes, and we did that one, you know, math book and textbook that's gonna come up for our lower school. You know, they really feel that there's other things out there that are better than what we use. We use what we use because that's just what we've used. So there are some other things, you know, once your own kids go through school, you know, some of our teachers have kids and they're like, this program really works. Like, I feel like my child gets it. And so hopefully we'll explore a little bit of those other programs. Instead of reordering what we have, we might just move, you know, get it approved and reorder something else and different that has been proven for success for kids.
so we think we're doing science and social studies first, and then math as it comes.
Math as it comes, yeah. So hopefully, you know, just getting together with people, you know, really trying to fit the pieces and where to go and what to focus on is the hardest part, but we're working on it.
question on this involved. So, I mean, on the 7-year data analysis, you can kind of see they're rebounding a little bit from COVID, but then you look at this side and it kind of looks, I'm assuming this is English and this is math, does it follow the same logic? So what,
Yeah.
why the kind of the lower scores?
This is always like a summer.
It's a summer slide, right? Yeah.
So they're coming in low, and remember, when you see the scores on this side, this is a whole year of teaching
Right,
that's
right.
happened. So this is entering into that grade level.
Yep.
What the staff is,
Okay,
and so then you'll see the
already
change
a
over
higher
time.
threshold.
Yes.
Are you able to see our data compared to other schools? You don't have that now. I'd be curious to know with, because obviously
Yeah.
this year was quite an impact from that COVID year
Yeah.
on your numbers, so I'm curious to see, if I had to guess, we're probably increasing or rebounding.
Yeah.
Probably better than other schools, but.
I would say yes,
Right.
definitely.
Megan, did you get the SBAC scores from the last meeting? I passed it out and it compares our DERG in about 9 other school districts. And that has all the comparisons for where we're going with the school districts in comparison to them.
Because like I said, it's good to see the trend, post COVID it's unfortunate that we had, because, 70s and 80s, and then you take it down to 30s and 40s, you definitely, the momentum, right?
Yeah.
So.
It's interesting, but I'll have to check on that because I should give you a score, and it gives you 3 years running and probably 150 test scores out of 20 different towns. Okay, so let me see if we can get that to you.
Do other schools do star testing?
It depends.
It's
Some do, and
And
some to Ames Web, like everybody does something
Yes.
different. So to find somebody like yourself,
Right, it's
so this is kind of inter-school,
yes,
month to month,
yes,
as opposed to when we get the state score.
right, right.
And yeah, I'm thinking SDAX the whole time, I'm like, oh, this is start, and then.
Yeah, so it is really within ourselves. It is nationally norm, it's normed across. Similar kids for the same grade
something
level.
like this is really good because you know that every year you're testing them on the same,
Correct.
right? Whereas
Yeah.
an SBAC is in theory the same, but you can't really control that, right?
No,
So.
no. And you can't control the questions, and you
Right,
can't
right.
control, the samples that they get
Right.
and those types of things.
Yeah.
So, it is much better here. But we look at, so it's like a triangle of data, so not only STAR, but we also look at like an HMH benchmark, we have our math test, we do Dibble, because that's an early screener for dyslexia. So like we do Dibble, so there's a lot of different components, you spend the whole month of September like, doing all
Right,
these
right.
things.
Yeah.
But this is just one snapshot of, overall progress. I would say.
And a class with 15, you got one kid that really dropped off in the summer,
Could be,
they can
could
bring
be.
it down.
Instead
So
of
one or two,
Is red always the lowest? I'm just trying to see the color. Thanks.
No, those go by cohort, right? So
Yeah,
your
so
cohort
you
each
thought it
goes.
was like diagonal,
Ah,
it's
right,
like
that's
So
lots of
you
years.
can follow down.
Thank you.
So Amy, the winter scores are gonna come out for what board meeting?
That would be for February.
So the
Because we take
February
them in
board meeting,
January.
we get an update and see what's happening with the.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't take into consideration, they're now being tested at the next grade level.
Right, as they
Right,
move through.
so in the beginning of the year, they're gonna be lower, and then hopefully throughout the year, as they are introduced to that curriculum,
Right.
they'll learn it more.
Good question. Let's see, Amy, was there anything else? Oh, I wanted Amy to get out of here. No.
It's a long day.
No, it's been relentless. And I must say, I attended 2 faculty meetings, and the presentation that Amy gave to the faculty was just wonderful, and it was bringing people together with coordinating activities. And, the faculty looks at scores, Megan, just like the board does. And we have our baseline, as Amy said, and we want to improve on that. There's a spotlight that we just passed out in your packet. And this is from Amy and I. We're releasing this to parents tomorrow. It just describes our evacuation drill on October 26th. And as you know, Amy chairs a crisis intervention team that meets faithfully the first Monday of every month. And at that committee, when they met in September, they requested that we have an evacuation drill in the fall. And so we're going ahead with that. It doesn't take too much time, but right after that, I bring the community, who are on the school safety team, and I share with them the all hazard plan as well as review the effectiveness of the evacuation. But all of these committees and other things that are happening are related to one another. And we're trying to coordinate meetings to make sure the all hazard plan has to be submitted to the state by November 1st. And we also have to send in a log for all of our drills and other things, and we've met compliance standards. And Val, I was thinking of you the other day because you're on the Indoor Air Quality Tools for Schools Committee. And I needed to schedule that at 10 a.m. on a certain day. But remember, the committees that we have are the history of what we're doing. And everything that we're going to talk about at the Indoor Air Quality Tools for Schools meeting, you've received information here. And when a state auditor comes in, he'll say, show me when you met with your safety meeting, your indoor air quality and tools for schools, who are the committee members. And if we have minutes and we're participating that, and then I show that the Board of Ed has, reviewed that, we're in compliance. And I will tell you, with all the things that are happening, we could probably schedule a board meeting every week. But if we have these committees working and you're overseeing the whole process, so I decided that I would have the meeting at 10 because there were just too many people involved. But
If you do them, like if you offer it virtually as well, I can duck out a class and be.
We'll see what we can do with that if we try that out. But it's an organizational structure activity here. And everything that a larger school district has to comply with, this Board of Education has to comply with as well. And it's just an economy of efficiencies and time savings. But if any board member wants to have a meeting, I will schedule that at a certain time to review issues. But this is what's going home to parents, probably tomorrow in the newsletter, Amy.
Sure.
Thank you. Other than that, Amy, if you,
Anybody have any other questions?
anybody,
I just wanted a quick update on the transition to Spanish. I think it's going well, but
It's been great. I wish that she could be here more. Spanish is definitely what the kids are interested in. But she's here and, if we've had an early dismissal, which is fine. We had one day, I would say there was no school, there wasn't any school. It was something came up and we moved her to, they was one on a field trip. And we moved her to a Wednesday. So the junior high has been really flexible about having her in. And, we made it really as an exploratory class to give them some sort of foundation before they go to high school. A lot of them, because of taking French, really can assimilate to Spanish, so they're really successful in it, which is great. So, it's been great. We're kind of just letting it just happen. And we're not making it, this huge class that's got all these grades and once a week, you can't expect kids to do that and keep up with it. So it's been good for them to get that.
Going well for a transition.
Yeah.
Post for a full-time Spanish teacher for next year.
I mean, I would say yes, if that's what the board wants, we
Yeah, I
should.
think we post that probably in the next couple of months.
Yeah, as soon as possible.
Yeah. In anticipation.
Well, yeah,
I mean, so
Sure, it's
that's
fine. People like working here though. It's just-
somebody that you can find that's you know, middle school driven, a lot of people are high school driven, they wanna be part of high school, and so, you know. But we have our Spanish teacher now, and we'll see, you know, how that happens, and hopefully, and she can only work, part-time anyway, so it just naturally how it ended up.
Yeah, that's great though, yes.
We're very fortunate, we share her with Franklin.
Mhm.
And she's a retired teacher, so she has to work under the 45% rule. If we weren't sharing her, we could get her in for more classes. But Franklin was the one that had this person
Yeah.
and
That's our way.
is sharing with us, so it's cooperative.
Thank you, Sharon.
Even if we could get another part-timer that could, you know, supplement either
Something.
one half of the school or the other half
Yeah.
of the school. To piggyback her.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
definitely is, you know,
Yeah.
something that. I wish we could get somebody that, you know, within what we want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A retired part-timer would be fabulous.
Find another rate.
Yeah. And they don't, need- you know, middle school doesn't need it 5 days, it can be really shared, they could do a couple of days and. It could be rotated, you know, I do think younger kids.
Yeah.
It's.
And,
personalities.
To inform the board, we're in the final stages with Preston. The person who's their social worker has said that she would like to go through and we're working out some contractual things. But, you know, she needs to meet with Amy to talk about the schedule and stuff, but that's completely using the grant funds to help
Yeah,
and support. So we have some things with staffing that are coming through and we
Yeah.
hope to expand on those.
which would
And
be
I would
wonderful
love-
for this level, yeah, that's exactly.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, any other questions for Amy? Thank you very much for your
Thanks.
All right,
reports
thank you.
and your time tonight, thanks so much.
Have a class, okay?
Okay,
It has been so
So-
busy, it's incredible.
were you, I'm going to give the,
Just Lloyd is not here tonight, obvious, he's gonna be back at the November meeting. His report has already been handed out. I like to look at the numbers with consistency. And he's following through with a format, you know, the October, beginning of October enrollment. And as you can see, the last 3 years, thank you, Amy, appreciate it. You know, with IEPs, this is pre-K through 12. And that's 54, 52, and 54 students. And then with the 504, 46, 54, and then back to 46. Lloyd has been very busy. Now, as part of this, just yesterday, I got, well, just today too, I got confirmation that we had a special ed student in a high school, and that special ed student is no longer in special ed. So that means that we have some savings with tuition from special ed, you know, into the regular ed. But, you know, so, you know, there,
Yes.
say it again.
Lloyd is involved in those conversations.
Oh,
of
he
moving
attends the
them and bringing them.
PPCs, and he, you know, he's the one that writes me a memo that confirms that there's been a transfer. That is it for special ed, unless anybody has any questions, but Lloyd will be here to answer them at the next meeting.
any urgent questions? Okay. Thank you for that. We can move on to the superintendent report.
Yes, you've got my calendar of events. There's the enrollment report. We're at 236 students. And high school is 127. We've returned $6,045 to the town. We had an NFA letter on newly hired speech and language pathologists. The Learn Regional Calendar for 24-25 is in your packet. Next meeting, I will have the EastCon calendar, and then we can send you a comparison. as we develop next year's budget. There's a performance matter document newsletter from the Connecticut State Department of Education. There's some K policies. And of course, there's been a change in the kindergarten, entrance age, and you'll be hearing more about this as the year goes on. There's a notice about the CAVE Delegate Assembly on Thursday, November 16th. There's a report with I'd like to mention that we've expended 23.32 of this year's budget. And we right now have a remaining balance of $5,409,826.91. Yes, I like to know where every penny is. That's important. The annual audit for the school district, it's now in its final stages. And that is intense. They go over every single account, that we document every expenditure, and we're going to have another year where we're on time and we're complying with all of the standards set by the State Department of Education. Darlena and Crystal deserve a special thank you, because the documentation that they have to provide, well, and myself too, really is, is important. I have a request from a high school student to visit NFA, the students in another high school. And we have an October 1st deadline for transfers, but I have been reviewing this situation. And I think there was a sincere effort of the student to try to make the October 1st deadline. We'll allow transfers, but that has passed. And I would like to continue investigating this. The student is going to NFA for shadowing on this Friday. We've made arrangements. And but I can't, if I want to make a move on this, I need the board to make a motion to authorize me to take appropriate action. Now, this will be at no cost, okay, which is important, because if there was a cost on this, that would close the door as far as I'm concerned. We have to be very careful about our budget.
Adam, I'm sorry, what school is this student attending now?
Ellis.
Ellis?
Yes, and I think there was an intent to review this and they let time slip by. With this, is there a big push for this? No, but the student would like to explore a possibility, but missed the October 1st deadline, and we're very close to that, Chris. So I'm gonna, the student will meet, and then if they want to have me consider moving them, they're gonna have to come in, meet with me. I have to review that, and based on what's happening, I would then make a decision. Whereas if it were before October 1st, they would come in and it'd say, okay, you can move because you met. It's just a timing aspect on this. What?
A ninth grader.
No, 10th. Yeah, 10th grade, yes. I'm sorry.
When you say there's cost, that's because we're already paying a tuition for somebody who left.
Last year.
Yes.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
can
there's
have
no-
our
there's-
number.
Yes, there's no cost. As a matter of fact, we've had some new students come in and they've selected NFA. And in a few minutes, I'll tell you some things about what's happening at NFA. Are we being recorded?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You don't want to turn the TV on though.
But again,
It
it's
is,
gonna cost because we've already paid additional tuition to NFA.
The
Based
NFA
on-
tuition is set for the year
For the
based
year.
on their tuition policy.
So we are allowed to send students there for the amount of
Yeah.
spots we have, even if it's a transfer after October 1st.
Yes. Yeah. So that would not affect the tuition. It would affect the tuition for next year but we're gonna have a tremendous savings from NFA because,
For next year anyway,
yes,
either way.
okay. So if you could approve a motion, I would appreciate that. And then I could enter into discussion with the family, but I don't usually do this, but we're coming out of some, transitional times with overall. And, I just think that I should bring this to the board.
Motion.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Any opposed?
The
Motion
state.
carries.
Okay, thank you. I'm going through a receiver. This is called a
Oh.
Roger. And as you speak, my processor adapts to your voice and you get clearer and clearer. So, but if I go from one voice to the next, there's sometime a little adjustment. So I might have to ask for clarification, but I'm hearing each of you very clearly, so that's good. The state just finished their fiscal year. They have a surplus, $551 million. The special transportation surplus was $682 million. So there are some things that were happening at the state financially that may be of help when we're doing our local budgets, but we have to see what happens with the economy. I already told you about the social worker. I wanted to mention that we meet with Tony Madeira, the town treasurer, and we have a very comprehensive agenda. We meet here in the office, and the audit, fixed assets, banking evaluation providers, non-negotiable checks, handling of funds, and we meet to coordinate that. I did call Tracy yesterday and said at this meeting, we're bringing up some of the upcoming capital improvement projects. And I said, Tracy, I'm gonna have a small committee because we've had some things like the fire panel needs to be replaced. Initial quote, and Jody said, we have to do this 52,000, the sliding door, maybe 140,000. The generator could be as high as 68,000. This building so when we tally up all those things, it's about $480,000, $500,000. And in the capital improvement plan that I gave you recently, we were saying we could bring these up through the budget process, but these are older items that, seem to be needing some repairs. So we need to check with the town about what is the best approach to do this. And there have been a lot of grants, like last meeting, I told you, we have a grant for $33,000 to help us develop our infrastructure, and Mike is coming up with some proposals to use some of that fund. And then the HVAC grant from the state that they're going to release and is due. There's a lot of discussion among the superintendents about that. But one of the things that I read just earlier today is they put in for the reimbursement, like a year ago, and they haven't received it. So remember the delay with the state reimbursement for the oil tank? It took us 3 years. So, we're looking at grants, available grants. If they are, I'll certainly submit them. And I can use some of these test scores as a basis for, a measure of academic performance. And those test scores that were given us to STAR, if they improve, then that documents the successful use of federal money. And, that's also helpful. So this committee meets and it just reviews how to best approach, how the town and the school cooperate together. They've been very helpful. I think that's it, Kate, on the superintendent's report.
Thank you. Does anybody have any follow-up questions for Mr. Burrows?
Oh, I forgot to mention the Route 130.
We got that, we have that.
You have it? Okay, good, you add it, okay, we got it in there. Let's
Jumping
see.
ahead here, we're jumping ahead. Okay, well, we can move into old business, the 2022-23 budget.
Yes, the current budget. We've been so busy, we almost finished the actual expenditure of last year's budget, but it's gonna have to wait. Megan, this is one of your reports that I think you like to look at. I do have some information on what's happening with health insurance. And, you know, this is related to last year's budget and then the development of this year's budget. But as you can see, last year, we spent $613,000. I'm in the next to last section, the 22-23 actual. And we spent $613,654. This year, we budgeted $657,000. And if you look last year, we budgeted $675,000. So last year, we had a savings of $61,000. Right now, we're running a slight deficit of $12,808. But that is pretty close to where we want to be. But as we move through the year, we will look at that, and then at some point, I would want to go ahead and make sure that we encumber some funds to handle that slight deficit. Now, somebody could get married and there would be a change, or somebody would, you know, resign and there would be a change in health benefits, okay? Other than that, for the budget for last year, I will have an actual expenditure report at the next board meeting. Any questions regarding health insurance?
This is helpful to see, thank you.
Yeah.
At first, I thought this was the actual budget 6 year. That really is their favorite, but you know, this is slice.
Yeah.
Important slice. Okay, item number 2 on old business budget preparation timeline.
Yes, I'm just including the timeline and the minutes. With the next meeting, we will have the actual, you know, expenditures.
Right.
Some curriculum initiatives, Amy mentioned a few of those. And then she also mentioned the curriculum priorities. And then in December, we'll review some of the transportation and maintenance costs. Okay.
Well, you touched upon some of the federal and state grants. Is there any
Yeah,
additional items?
I just mentioned an application for that $33,000 grant. The Board of Ed already authorized me to submit that. And, you know, I mentioned the social worker with the, you know, the social emotional health grant with a $76,000, $67,000 that we received over the next 3 years. And then as they release other grants, I will see what we can do to make applications.
Update, the building committee update.
You know, we've been talking about that through the meeting. Kate,
Right.
did you have anything to add to that?
No, and we haven't had a formal meeting since the last time we met, so, I know it's just been ongoing and, I was speaking with Brian briefly about just some of the updates with cameras and how that's going. It sounds like they're really excited about having that real-time access with the cameras, you know, that's something they haven't had the benefit of in the past, and, so that's been really helpful inside and outside. But there are still some blind spots that we're working with. And, something that's really real is that our infrastructure and our servers are all kind of the dinosaurs of the the old days. It's not in the cloud yet, so we might have the best cameras in the world, but they're gonna deal with, lowest resolution because we can't manage that as well. So I think it's stuff we're gonna be looking into a little bit further of what we need.
Now, one question on that, is Mike on that committee?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
especially as you're talking about
Mhm.
needing to upgrade
Right.
stuff.
And that's, I know that Brian and Mike are working very closely hand in hand. I'm sure Mike's underwater, the obsolete technology, that's been a big project that he's been working on. It's just kind of been, you're finding these old projectors and so forth in certain corners of the school and trying to find the repurposing in places you can recycle those things. So that's all moving ahead. So kudos to Mike, and for the record, we are really happy with the things that he's been able to do in the short time. So that's all I have from the building committee. NFA 2025-30 contract update. I think you just
We've been actively involved in that. Tuesday, I attended a meeting with the partner school districts at NFA, and we went over specifics, and we have been very specific. I have been very specific about what I would like to see. The other thing is, I'll go over that later, but the other thing is, we're meeting with area superintendents at one of the partner schools to share all of our ideas separately from going into NFA, so that we can blend together the priorities that the partner school districts seek as priorities.
Just one question now, do say we and Franklin have the same contract, or does?
Just about, yeah, they're very, very similar. Norwich
Yeah.
has a different contract. And that's based on NFA being located in Norwich. I will say this, I just mentioned a student wanting to shadow at NFA. In my meeting, the head of NFA indicated that they just had really just one discipline incident, and it was minor during the month of September.
Right.
And he also indicated that the attendance percentages are really up. And just on a third thing, through my grapevine, I heard that at his faculty meeting, he got a real ovation from the 100 or so plus people that were there at the meeting. As I said before, I really appreciate the work of Nate Quisnell, the new headmaster at NFA. So I believe that for me personally, I'm seeing a lot of positive things that I make.
Great to hear. Personally, I've met him a few times now, just having interactions, and he's very present in the hallways and people touching base with staff and students. I've seen him at 3 events that I've been to. He's stopped in, so that's great to see.
Adam, how many schools are in the group that you're kind of,
Oh, that's.
that you're kind of taking into NFA? So is it a significant amount of schools that
Yeah, I
are?
believe there's, I believe there's 9. I would have to get the list. It's in the handbook for NFA, and usually I leave one over there on the shelf, but it's about 9 different schools.
That you guys are all kind of trying to come together and come
Oh,
to a
yes.
collective
Yes, well,
agreement
we-
and benefits.
we maintain communications all the time. I mean, yes, and there's a network, Val, and that's important. And it's the same thing with Amy, she maintains a network with the area principals.
Mhm.
And it's through that you know, we coordinate activities, develop priorities, and it is very helpful. And this is just like the board, if they go to a K-CAPS conference or they network with other, you know, boards of education, it does enhance our knowledge of the upcoming trends. So thank you. That was a good question.
Thank you for that update. Okay, we can move to item number 6, safety on Route 138.
Yes.
Sarah.
I communicated with Tracy yesterday. And of course, she passed out at the last meeting, the plan. She said, I submitted it to DOT. I'm waiting. And the only thing I can say is that it's a good plan. She's very supportive, but we are at the mercy of the DOT timelines.
Have you or her tried to reach out to either Heather Summers or Brian Manu?
I talked to Tracy about that and she said, you know, DOT tends to have a mind of their own.
Yeah.
But
that
I
doesn't mean we
did
can't.
mention it.
We should also, either you or the board should reach out that.
Dee Dee, why don't we make another note because we've already written to them. And you know, I should let you, you know, take this.
We've submitted it.
Oh, there's no question about it, and I wish things could move, but I did ask Tracy that, and she said, you know, they are trying, but
I think it doesn't hurt. We have
The Board of Ed, we both send letters for.
Yes.
For their support.
Yeah, I think that when we originally did it, it was from both, so
Yeah,
it's just kind of a follow up to the same idea.
that we've submitted it and that we're, if there's any red tape they can help cut, we'd really appreciate it.
this is an issue that goes on for so long. And we just happen to have state highway.
Yeah, I guess, so what is she asking for permission? Cause we used to have lights already on that road. That are still wired, so what are we requesting? We put it there.
This plan here.
And she.
Yeah, they have all the specs and all of the things that are arranged, the times that we want things activated. Everything has been submitted.
Sure.
And she
It's
said
different
she,
lights, so it's like it has to be a new sign with its
Right.
solar panel and then the lights flat.
Yeah.
We've been talking about this for years. I remember when the tolls in Rhode Island came through, the rash of trucks, and every single one of us, I believe.
Yeah.
Heard from people when we were out locally, hey, what the heck is going on? Why are there no safety lights? And it's good that we're talking about it and mentioning that. We're waiting on DOT. Maybe everybody can bug DOT.
Yeah.
Let me get the commission, emails won't hurt.
I'll put this along.
I'm thinking maybe as a town, we could encourage people to even hit up Lamont about this. As individuals, he starts getting 50, 100 fans to his office from one little town.
Oh, they'll definitely act on it.
Yeah, that the PTO could put out some information about it and encourage parents. Contact. Somebody about it, you know, the more squeaky wheels.
Right.
I mean, it's just a matter of, I mean, you see it, bureaucracy, but it's every day that goes by that there's a chance that.
It's a hazard.
Yeah, it's a hazard, and we right now have very few safety measures on this very busy road, that it's not a town road, so you can't control it from the town and within our perspective, so.
I have to say, I was in the library one day towards the front, and a couple trucks went by, the whole building shook. You could, you know, and they were really moving and stuff, and the whole building itself seemed, you know, it's like they were in there with you. I wouldn't be even want walking on those sidewalks when some of those trucks go
well, the
by.
big trucks are avoiding the
Yeah.
toll.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the problem.
Going east, as soon as everybody goes by Sunny's, you can almost just watch their foot, all right?
Yeah.
And by the time the school, of course, they're zoom.
But the other thing here is if anybody knows Heather or Brian,
Yeah.
I mean, I call them up and mention things, but
Yeah.
it's okay for you to say that as well. And it might actually mean a little bit more because we have written formal letters, but we need help with this.
We can get the PTO or someone, to encourage parents in general, just to write about, I don't think there's anybody in town happy with it. You know, so encourage town members, parents to write to Lamont. Cause I think Heather Summers and Brian can only do so much, but they don't run DOT. Governor Lamont runs DOT at the governor's level. And just, I think if they get 10, 15 things on the same issue,
The commissioners don't like to be bothered.
bothered.
They start catching flack, they'll definitely look into it.
fix it, you know. And
And
stuff.
very, I mean, it's
Not.
at every other school, you know, it's like
Yeah.
there's, you go by
Right,
the
this is
school.
like
and-
a springer, this is like
Yeah.
a screen that should have crossed the desk, got a stamp and moved along, it should not be held up, so.
We've all heard it.
If we can raise awareness to, I mean, maybe we try, the board tries to write Lamont on note if we haven't tried Governor Lamont yet, but.
I
it
would,
was something,
you know,
I mean, I
because
would
he
think
could-
Tracy could put maybe in place a call to one of his aides or something.
he's who runs DOT,
Right.
not Brian's and Heather Summers.
And I did mention the transportation surplus of $680.
Yeah.
Yes.
And a flat sheet.
Hoping for another year of no snow.
Yes, for many years of no snow.
Well, I mean, it's been a rainy summer, so that will be quite a line this year.
Okay, we have our charge there, so, technology manual,
Yes, Mike has been busy with this. We've been exploring in, you know, our technology manual is you know, like 70 pages. And we've seen some slightly different approaches to this with brief tech manuals with inventories and other things, then a handbook, and then policy guides. And we hope to come back to you the next meeting with some issues. I know that the national publications right now with artificial intelligence is like the #1 topic.
Yeah.
And everybody is writing about it. So there's all of these things that are happening. But what is the best approach for us? And I might even invite Mike back in to you know, give us some of the priorities as how he sees this as after his research.
Where did you land with the cyber insurance?
I was gonna have a meeting this Tuesday, it needed to change. We're meeting with Kerma on Tuesday. Mike is coming into that, and Kerma gets quotes from different insurance companies. And what we'll do is show him what we've received so far, but we still have a couple of documents that we need to update. But hopefully by the next board meeting, I should have an update.
Yeah, and so I have put you into contact with the person that I recommended.
Sure.
But because you sent Kerma out for quotes, he can't quote it, so next year I would like to have him take a shot at quoting.
That's not, how can I put this? I'm looking at quotes from different companies.
Yep, it's the broker, so Kerma's your broker, you can't have more than one broker. Trying
I
to
see what
underwrite.
you're saying, okay.
Yeah, so
Change brokers.
I wanna let somebody else, every 3 years, it's a good idea to let somebody else try to shop it and just to make sure you're, you know. Covering yourself properly,
And then
so
are we committed to them,
No.
to buy through them?
No.
We can say with Kerm.
if that's what we wanna do, I mean, that's. But the good thing about having somebody else at least meet with you is they might be able to show you if you have gaps, like. Kerma should have been after us to get cyber insurance years ago, right? But there's a level of complacency that happens when you stay with the same broker all of the time. So it's good every few years to, kind of go out to somebody else, see, he might come in and you're like, nope, we like what we have, right? But at least we can't have Kerma go out to shop. You don't wanna have two brokers shopping for you.
Couldn't shop for us next year. You're asking us. to
I'm
change
asking that we
brokers.
have a conversation with a different broker before Kerma goes out to shop.
Well, who decides which broker?
Us, right? So, but
Well, I would have to look at, different brokerages and
Yeah.
have the board, review.
right, so basically what you would do is you would have. This broker come in and say, I think you need to have this, and then Kerma could say, I think you need to have this, and then we can look at it and say, oh yeah,
I
Kerma
thought
didn't
they
think
all
of this.
Can't go out.
Nope, so they're gonna tell you what they think you need for coverage. And we look at it and we say, oh, Kerma didn't think of this, or this one didn't think of this, right? So you look at the suite that they both make recommendations as to what they think you should have. Part of that would be like workers' comp insurance, general liability, cyber
Right,
insurance.
is this the company you work with at work?
No,
No, or a friend? No,
it's somebody who I used to work with, who's very, very good and on top of this kind of stuff, so,
you don't have them at your workplace?
no.
If they're that good, why not?
Because I'm not responsible for benefits at my workplace. So it's always good to have somebody else come in and tell you what they think you should have. It doesn't mean that you then have to go with them, but they might say, hey, I think you should have X, Y, Z, and Kerma might say, I think you should have A, B, C. And then we can decide, oh, maybe we do need that, maybe we don't need that. And it's good to have multiple, I mean,
Yeah.
you deal with this kind of stuff too, it's always good. Same with like 401k
Right.
stuff,
Right.
right?
It's,
So,
and we did talk about it, we were in
Right.
kind of a situation where we had received the audit and we were getting some deficiencies, so this
Right.
came up through a
correct.
conversation.
But before Kerma goes out, these meetings need to happen,
Right.
and that's what happened was, we were gonna have these meetings, but then Kerma went out ahead of
So
time.
probably maybe in the summer, we need to have these people, both Kerma and them go out and say what we need.
What they think we need, and so
And then
they
go
both do
from
an
there.
audit of what you have, and said, hey, you're not thinking about this, or.
I think a fresh set of eyes looking at anything is a benefit to us. In the
It
district as
doesn't
a
mean you
whole.
go with them, just, they have a chance to tell you what they think you need.
So, getting back to the technical manual though, like, are we scrapping this for now?
No, we're not
Okay.
scrapping
Yeah.
that. We're blending this in with other documents.
Okay,
And we're also reviewing policies related to technology.
Right.
AI changes are coming so fast, it's difficult to even keep up on what's happening with that.
that's hard to keep a manual and, but we have policies which we're looking at, so.
There was a chat bot somewhere that somebody was talking with and this AI chat bot convinced the person to try to kill the queen or some nonsense. And acted on it and went to try to do it. And that's scary as heck, you have some student that. May have some issues gaining a friend through AI and this was an adult that was doing this and AI, I'm sure it's. For the most part, extremely helpful, it helps us all in our daily lives, in fact, but there is that danger area that
Right, I know it's a huge
Needs
topic
to
that
pay
they're,
attention
yeah,
to.
that they're bringing, obviously, even commissioner, like this, they're trying to, Commissioner Russell just had a whole. Kind of conference about it and, gearing up for, just bringing in all the experts, just really the tools, like how we can protect and use it. It's not gonna go away, so I'm sure you're hearing about it tremendous amounts, but,
I think it would be a great tool, obviously, for any educator. But the bad side, the other side is it would be a great tool to say cheat or.
right.
Right, you have to write your assignments so that that's not helpful to them. Right, so they can't use it for the assignment, so you have to kind of
Rethink your assignment process.
create it in a different way where it's not
It's
not
not
useful.
using it.
Right, it's
Yeah,
not gonna be
yeah.
useful to. For their assignment.
We'll be hitting you up for knowledge on all this, cause you're dealing with it at a high school level.
The Common Core math, like getting to one answer like 600 ways, I mean, that's a good, a good way to get around AI. Just that goes like this, make them do it 16 ways to get the same answer, then perhaps.
Or based on a set of criteria,
Mhm.
create your own problem based on a set of criteria and then solve it. It's not just I can plug it in and get an answer.
Right, right. Well, fascinating, so I,
There'll be, yeah, a revision probably, because we're thinking this policy filled one might be great for Mike and adding some other inventory items to it and possibly creating a simplified parent-student one, listing the policies just on a page and a link to view them, to make it, because we compared other schools, what they did, and we're kind of leaning towards presenting that to the board maybe next month.
Mike has his job cut out for him.
so we'll just table this again until next, okay, sounds good. Good of an update. I know you've been tweaking it as we've discussed it and it's changed, which is
Simple.
based on our.
But-
Yep, okay, well, thank you for that update. We can move on to new business at 8:10. Wow. Personnel,
Do you wanna go through the,
sure, usually there's a few items there or updates and motions that are required, so. Under personnel, we would like the motion to be made to appoint Margaret Boland and Shayna Evans as coaches for the soccer clinic.
Motion.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Favor motion. So we need a motion to appoint Darlene Loranger and Anne Rashad as co-head coaches for cheerleading.
motion,
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Motion to appoint Julia Lavin as head coach and Chuck Salter and Kevin DiPolino as assistant coaches for girls basketball.
motion,
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
A motion to appoint Ed Duncan as head coach and Joe Miller as assistant coach for boys basketball.
second,
By Pat, second by Val, okay. All in favor? Aye.
Not even that late yet.
I know, I'm really more of that. That's it, right, for the personnel, okay, so item number 2 of new business is administrative update regarding annual process on IEP and 504s. Is that what you
Amy went through the,
Okay, great, yeah, I was gonna say that was already covered.
Yeah.
And sigh, the policies.
Lots of
Lots
policies.
of policies. Of course, these are first readings, so, policy 4132 is a publication or creation of materials. So that was,
And this one I saw was
Related to
not
this.
required.
yes,
right,
this is kind of almost related to what we were talking from the tech manual.
well, this was based on Val's conversation a few months ago about teachers creating documents
Right,
or
any-
school curriculum and whose property type of a thing it is. This is what CABE suggests, but it's by no, it's up to you if you want to keep it or just
It's
review
not-
it.
It's somewhere, but
Yeah.
it's, you know,
No,
professional articles is listed there, Val, so I didn't know
Right,
that
no,
was-
I saw, there's lots of discussion about materials. Especially materials developed in their own time.
isn't opposed to the language.
Yeah, I think it's good, I think it, I mean, I'm not usually a proponent of policies that are not required, but I think this is kind of that. It puts some control in the school of kind of.
yeah, of what they can.
Yeah.
I would, there's lots of wording with software. I don't know if we're necessarily developing software or if it's more materials, so maybe utilizing
Yeah.
kind of that materials. You know,
Mhm.
language.
And take out the software.
Well, it's not.
Oh,
this is
see,
what-
but I mean.
This is what we pay Kate for, to develop these policies to cover us. Not to cover the teacher, to cover us. And do we have any teachers that do software development? We don't know. That are doing stuff at home.
Well, I'm just saying, like, there are some places that say only software
Right,
and not
so just saying
materials,
not
so be
materials.
consistent, add both pieces. Within the link.
Because there are a few references to software or materials or software and materials, so it would just be making sure anywhere it says software or material.
Okay.
So what you want in is software and materials everywhere,
Okay.
not just material, not just software.
Okay, that sounds good. We'll look at it next time with that update.
If you.
Or even or as amended.
As amended.
As amended, okay, that's fine.
I don't see why anybody developing anything on their own time would have to notify any employer of any sort what and why they're doing it. I don't see how that's anybody's business whatsoever.
To the performance of their job.
Where it has connection to the district. it says.
Yeah, so what?
Their job.
If they go home and develop something on their own and then shop and patent it, and we can use it to help our district, great. But if they're still doing it on their own time, I just don't see it as any of our concern. Unless we choose to buy the products from them after they construct it.
I think it's more so to show that they are, that because they're developing it on their own time. That it belongs to them, right? So if they're using it in their classroom. Then that material, if they choose to leave the school, which hopefully they don't ever, but.
Correct.
And typically they don't, but if they choose to leave the school, the understanding is that that is developed by them and that is their personal property, that is not. Going to continue on after they leave unless they choose to share it. So I think it gives. First of all, it encourages the teacher to develop something that is their own. But it also gives them some legal copyright to it. So that if they choose to take it with them, that is their choice. It doesn't belong to the district. And there are other instances, and I can tell you how it would, you know, be in the district's best interest to make sure that it's kind of separated. Because you could have a liability issue if a teacher has copyrighted their stuff. And then somebody else is taking it and they're. Right, selling it or
Using it, it's just using it.
if things are copyrighted, if the teacher chooses to copyright their stuff. It could be a district liability if the district is taking it on as their own. Disseminating to their teachers for use within the district.
We should clear the language up then, because everything you said is a valid point. But none of it is mentioned. All I'm getting out of this is that if I was a teacher and I decided to develop software, I'd have to notify them. It doesn't in any way say that.
Video is created by somebody within the scope of their job here is
Owned by
our,
us.
is. The second paragraph is if they do it on their own time, then it only impacts us if they're using it with the district. So like. If they're trying to market this and say, oh, I use this at Valentine Elementary School, right? So they're tying it to this district.
Yeah.
That's what this second paragraph is saying, but to Val's point, it's still saying that. You're notifying the superintendent in writing that you're doing it on your own time, so it's not owned by.
Yeah,
the
I disagree with. I think if they have a finished product and say, this is my finished product, copyrighted, I did this, if you wanna buy it, you can. And if you allow me to use it in my classroom, I will, but I just don't see how notifying you that I'm doing this on my own time.
It's the district, it's going out and saying, we use this at Valentine Elementary School, and this is their dirt scores, and this is their star. Right, it's not just going out
protects the
cold
school.
calling, it's, they're tying it back to us as the second. We can go to a second reading on this
Yeah.
one, I think, is probably.
But I think some of these policies are being written by lawyers and people that know this stuff, and we don't really know it. And,
Well, you can find lawyers to argue any
Well,
point under the sun.
but I think,
I just wanna make sure that we feel comfortable with
Yeah.
it, we're covering this, yeah, so I think maybe
If you want to cover us,
right.
I just don't want to in any way restrict any district or employee
Yeah.
to do what they want to
Creative
do
art.
intellectually on their own time.
And that protects both us and then for sure, but
Should there be different language to reinforce that? That
Well, I think the reference at the bottom that it's the 1976 Copyright
I do.
Act does reinforce the things within the Copyright Act. So the fact that it is referencing that act is much more in depth than our policy. But I wonder if the reference of it
Probably
covers
so.
us.
got more stuff in it.
or the creator of the problem.
I'm shocked that it's this short.
Yeah.
We're coming out of,
Very
okay, but like,
good.
yeah, it's like, I thank you for that, but
Yeah.
I don't wanna, make anybody concerned on the board, but I do, know that there's.
And this is a non-required, so. That again,
Mhm.
we don't need it.
So do we want a second meeting or do we wanna do it as,
No,
I think
Chris wants to?
Chris wants to.
Okay. Okay, we'll table it for next, Dee Dee, I guess we can just discuss, from the policy side, if there's anything more or,
Right.
I mean, at this point, this is what Kate suggested, so I don't know if we're gonna have a
I mean,
supplemental.
I can go back to them and say, is there anything more? Is there a regulation that goes along with this? I didn't think to ask that particular thing, so that might list more wording that makes you
Yeah.
happy.
I think we were also saying as amended, so adding the language and the materials and things like that.
software materials.
Okay.
It's okay, table.
Oh, man, so I just. lost.
We're on confidentiality.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you need my side of? Oh, side of it, where am I? So confidentiality, yeah. New,
Confidentiality.
it's just a policy.
We have a director's policy.
Yep, policy 5125.
These are CABE recommended updates based on legislation.
Dave has some suggested edits.
So we already have this policy,
Yes.
Yes, it
and
was,
we're just amending how we.
1991, 97, 2003, 2011, 2015, and this is another upgrade.
Mhm.
Or edit.
Mhm.
It's just a lot of definitions.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
Related to confidentiality. One of the workshops that Amy recently did at a faculty meeting was on confidentiality. And, it just had, different scenarios of how you deal with that. It was quite good. And the faculty had a meaningful discussion, but this is the policy that kind of guides that. And the edits, Dee Dee, came from Kate, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, it looks like there's more technology language in it, which would obviously be a
This is
big update from.
this is a first reading, and the procedure for the board is to have a first reading. And then if there's any edits or other things, get them into the central office, you can talk to Dee Dee. And we'll have a second reading at the next meeting. And we will probably take out the lines crossed out so that it shows what the final policy would look like.
be nice to get some of these off the agenda, because we have more coming. You know,
We do.
and stuff if we have no.
Well, Kathy, it was a very busy legislative session.
Yeah,
And they passed more new rules and guidelines than they've ever done. Hopefully, this is a short session this year, and maybe they won't, have as many changes.
All right, well, we'll do a second reading. I think there's limited amounts that we need to kind of review, but that should be easy for next meeting. Okay, policy and regulation 6141/323, internet filtering.
This is the first reading. We do not have a policy on this.
But it is
This
a
is
new
a
requirement.
requirement
They add
for
this.
me.
Will this policy be in your cyber manual?
It,
Mhm. Oh,
either
yeah.
a cyber manual or a handbook,
Mhm.
or if it's in the policy guide, it would, show those policies when we're reviewing, how the guide the cybersecurity.
We already have filters and blocks in place, correct? And we already have filters and blocks,
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully.
and I think we're following this already, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Knowing that you guys are on top of things, we're probably exceeding the,
I'm sure this has to be
Regulations.
updated every quarter from the state, from their, their regulation requirements. They need to like just update the language of
Yeah,
what they need to be on top of, because things
they've got
change.
all the regulations listed and everything.
So if we want to move on this, I'll make a motion to move on this one.
All in favor?
We're looking for discounted prices for cyber insurance.
Okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes to approve that health and regulation for internet filtering as presented. All right, policy and regulation 6141/3273, which is the hot topic of generative IA. This is definitely a first reading. Sounds like,
It's just very general, because I don't think they know what they really
Well,
want to
they're-
do.
Yeah, exempt.
Yeah, but it's
Mhm.
This is not really a policy,
the
honestly.
regulations.
This
we
is
don't have
just
a
a
choice.
recommendation, so I personally don't know if this to me would be better suited as like a memo to teachers
Mm.
than as a policy. Is that what you said, Tim? It's literally just
General.
recommendations for teachers, it's not really.
And then there's the regulations.
Megan, when we contacted Cade,
Is that what you said, Tim?
Dee Dee asked them if they had anything on artificial intelligence.
Mhm.
And they said, we're working on it, and we're probably the first school district
To
to
ask.
receive a copy of this. Because we were talking about artificial intelligence, what do you have? I agree, it could probably be in a
Yeah, I would
handbook or manual.
At this point, I think eventually it'll start to.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's not a required policy or regulation, but I like your idea, maybe we could think about that, because we're thinking about a technology manual and a handbook, and then a policy book related to technology, rather than having one
Yeah.
altogether. We have 3 different resources.
yeah, it's good to, be in front of us of where it's starting and how it's
Right.
evolving, and then we just figure out where it's gonna be
Yeah.
referenced by.
Yeah, but I don't think like the policy with like anti-harassment and all that stuff
Yeah.
is the right place for it.
Right.
Agreed.
Good suggestion. Megan.
Okay. It's just like when it says regulation, you're like, so what do we have to do with that, like, are they gonna start to mandate it, but.
Eventually,
No,
yeah,
no,
eventually
they
have to figure it out.
Yeah, I don't know why they call it a victim.
They don't have their hands
Not
on
rather,
it.
I bet if you talk to 200 congressmen and 50 senators, they couldn't tell you what AI is. Yeah, some of them can't even get on Facebook.
Talk to their great kids,
Yeah.
they may not.
But, you know, as regulations come along, it's gonna be a slow evolving process. And
I swear, my 7-year-old was saying the same thing, I said, like, can you just pull up that app? Mommy, and I have a question whether with a cat, having a cat or a dog is better. What are you talking about that app? Are we Googling? What do you want to do a research? I just know that one. What does he tell me that? I'm like,
yeah,
Okay, so we will move to policy and regulation. Oh, no, it's policy and forms on survey of students.
Yes, we had a policy adopted with this originally in 2003, revised 2018. And now we're reviewing another revision. And there are, surveys that we do use in the school district.
Somewhere else when I'm reading, where it says parents or guardians should have the right to inspect upon their request a survey created by a third party before the survey is administered. Why is it restricted to just a third party?
Yeah, I gotta have a similar, so it says above that, it says prior to administering a survey, the board of education must approve all those that are received by the superintendent that include reference to any of the factors listed below. So my question was. The board is only notified if it's related to like these 8, like basically political, religious, sexual behavior, mental, like.
pretty much covers everything.
Like, so basically, if the school is going to issue a survey to students based on for. Like evaluation of curriculum, that's not in this list of 8.
Do we survey kids if they like the curriculum?
I think we did do a survey, they did a survey last year, right?
Yes.
Or what was it about?
Yeah,
It wasn't about curriculum, what was it about? I can't remember.
we did the mass survey, like health. There was like very few.
That was.
I think
but that
because
was
of this,
parents,
it's
that wasn't students. This is
students.
survey.
Yeah, right,
It might be good to let the board see some of the current surveys or just list any current surveys. So that it answers your question. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm just, so basically it's all of these 8 or a third party. But I guess my question is. What makes a third party one that parents should have a right to see but not other, I don't know. Cause then in addition that their parental consent is required with this 1 through 8. And then parental consent is required with a third party, so I guess what are they worried about with third party? Maybe
I don't
because
even think that
it's going extra.
It looks like it's been
I don't even
handed in.
think that they're gonna ask the question, right? But what if your child is surveyed about something in class? And for some reason, the wording on the survey made the child uncomfortable. So they came home and they said something, the parents like, what did that mean? And like, maybe it was just the wording, maybe it was not the intent of the teacher. Like, to say that it's only by a third party, I mean, I'm sure that if I as a parent contacted the teacher and said, what was that survey about that you gave my child? Because my child came home feeling a little uncomfortable about the way that the question was asked. And maybe it was something as simple as, what do you do for Christmas? And you have a student who's maybe Jewish in your class. And so now that student feels uncomfortable about that question. So I don't think that saying that a parent can't ask to see a survey, I don't think they need to be notified, but I think that the way that it's worded in that last question or that last statement says that a parent can't look at that survey. And I don't think that a teacher here would ever say, no, I'm not gonna let you see my survey, this is what it, you know. But I just don't like the wording, I guess is my bottom line, just saying that it's third party, just say that a parent can look at any survey that we get.
Like the italicized additions, you know,
Yeah,
so we don't need the addition if we don't want it.
make it how you want it.
Huh?
It's your choice.
Surveys are now almost like there's so many are third
Yeah.
party, right? Like that's the thing, it's like, you know, it's
Survey monkey.
Survey Monday, like whatever, like the, you know, tool for the school rather than like, you know, they're coming.
Yeah.
That's kind of the question, is it a tool that they're using for the survey, or is it?
Be a survey to say.
Is it like an outside party trying to gather information from our
Right.
school?
I would just. Cross off that, a parent or guardian shall have the right to inspect upon the request of a survey. Before the survey is administered or distributed,
Well, I don't, only if they know, every survey.
upon request.
Yeah,
And I think that this would be if it was a student feeling uncomfortable, it would be a post request.
yeah,
But I don't think that saying that only if it's created by a third party, and like I said, I mean, this is a policy that. To me, that sentence is kind of silly, because I think any one of our teachers would offer their survey if they gave it and your child felt uncomfortable.
because the survey.
I just would like to take out that third party wording and say any survey is given by our.
They can.
So that paragraph right there.
school. Any
Yeah.
survey that's given by our school, and really wants to know what the survey has, then.
Mhm.
Yeah, it could even be
It's
something.
just transparency is all I'm saying, like, it doesn't necessarily have to be a third party. We get a survey from the school, transparency, the parents should be able to request. What questions were being asked.
Just trying to think of.
Adam's making that face, I'm trying to.
Yeah.
And because the rest of it talks about they're notified 2 weeks ahead of time about a survey.
No, I didn't say notify, I just said
Well,
like.
talking about they
Well, there are
have to make
certain
it
ones they have to be notified, there's certain.
ones, yeah. Because the survey can be as easy, as simple as they hand out to everybody 6, 7 days, right? If you could only offer one sport, would you rather have basketball, baseball, soccer? Or whatever, you know, it could.
Oh, yeah, such request will be made in writing with 2 weeks advance notice, no, just transparency in that sentence. Parents or guardians should have the right to inspect upon the request, any survey created.
Yeah, every,
Before the
And
survey,
being distributed to their.
before
Or after, I mean.
yeah, everything after,
Yeah.
upon request a survey, you know, they can see it. Not,
Well, they won't know
I think
about
we're
it.
pretty transparent here anyway, so.
yeah,
There's a
we
parent
get a
request.
lot of things for, and they take this, and they.
Okay, well, why don't we just pull it to a second reading and then, we will just determine
You know,
what that language is.
Oh, do you want that paragraph removed before the
No,
next?
She just wants it to say parents and guardians
Yeah.
will have the right to inspect any survey.
Any survey.
administered-
And does it have to be?
No,
before?
distributed by, administered or distributed by school to student, period.
Period. Done.
Okay,
Done, maybe 2 weeks.
and this is a policy about student privacy. It's required and it's
Right.
about 10 pages long,
Yeah.
including the
the
registration
forms.
and forms
Yeah.
that they suggest.
If you read it on.
Right.
okay.
Policy 9327.1. Program for use of social networks, is that, that's not your comment, right?
Well, there was the PPRA model, no, is that not?
No, that's part of the other one,
We can, that one.
yeah, that's.
That's part of the survey of students?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
9327-1.
This is not required,
that's
so
the
you-
whole-
I would like to speak on that, please.
it's,
I read this. I just totally reject everything about this for a couple of reasons. One is that anything we speak about that is confidential is probably breaking the law. So we can't do that anyway. The second reason is if say Megan and I are having a disagreement on the prior policy, for instance, if we disagreed on points on that. And I went on Facebook and blasted her personally because of that. This being such a small town, the people in the town would see that I never sit in a seat again, probably, which would be more regulating than any policy. And another reason also is we're not employees, we're elected officials. And if I do feel the need to blast Megan, tough. But I wouldn't, because I have respect for a lot of respect for everybody here. And that, I don't think this is anything any of us would ever even have to worry about. But I would vote no on this. And of course, you guys may like it. I just think it's unnecessary and restricting to us as just being people that are elected. And again, if I just blast somebody, I would take the consequences of that.
You know, Chris, we went on a search based on,
Okay.
technology and internet, and we gave the board what's out there from CABE.
Mhm.
This is not a required policy. We don't have to have it. It's only if we feel we need to, do this, and this is a first reading, so.
I
it's
don't
up-
think we need this. At some point, we
I hope not.
might have to.
What's all the bylaws of the board when it says that?
Yeah.
Is that like
I think.
separate, a separate
There's-
section?
There are code of ethics that we've have as bylaws that covers kind of this, yeah.
That we did.
Right.
in the
How
last
we
few
treat
years.
each other.
Yes.
Yeah, and like similar types of stuff, like, you won't have a quorum, like we won't get a quorum on like social media. I vaguely remember that.
Yeah, I keep thinking about
So, I
one
think
of us
this is-
say, what do you think about X, Y,
Yeah, we
Z?
can't have an illegal meeting or,
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
things like that, so.
Yeah.
that's illegal.
Megan, there's some things in the introductory section of, the policy book. It's called like Board of Ed, suggested rules and
Mhm.
procedures. And there's some things in there that Chris was just talking about, the ethical considerations that people have for each other. So,
But we have to realize there is a board of ed not far from us suing each other.
Yes, oh, that's Tom. We do fantastic.
I think this is not because it's not out of thin air that they come up with these,
No,
helpful
But I
solutions.
think our code of ethics probably.
yes, correct, yes.
And
Hey, even our differences, we handle much better than most sports. Stuff like we need to do is,
We're not suing each other.
yeah,
Alright, so we'll scrap this.
Yeah, we'll get rid of that one. please.
And if we ever need it, hopefully we won't, but we can revisit it at that time.
I would still be against it, whoever.
So Dee Dee, we can cross that one
Yeah.
off. Our policy book is
Yeah.
quite long,
It's long enough.
yes.
I think we all will agree on number 9.
Yeah. Oh,
Good comment.
That's an easy one.
yeah.
Farmer's daughter, yes, I think that is that we can,
I'll
we
even,
can
I'll make the
approve
motion.
The motion to approve,
If
all
I-
in favor to approve the pre-K field trip to the farmer's daughter.
Aye.
And hopefully no rain on that day.
Yeah.
Have a great field trip
Yeah,
for pre-Kers. Okay, well, that's the last new business item, for our, upcoming meeting, we have it on November 9th, so that's 2 days after election day, so luck to all of us. When
Is
else against,
everybody here running again?
Well, I think
Chris and I.
Chris, no, me and I are.
You
Chris
and
is
Chris and I.
or is there, sure you're on you too, right? Are you?
I'm
on?
up, yeah.
Okay.
And Arca, I think is up as well.
Mhm.
Who?
Arca, or Paul.
Yes, Eric. we did. At the same time. as Chris and
Yeah.
I.
Right. Okay. To, I think we just have some items for personnel for executive session. We have a,
I think it might wait until the next meeting.
Thank you, Adam.
Okay, on here,
Alright.
it's 40.
Yes, go get your food.
Yeah, you did it under 2 hours, so.
We did that.
That's some good discussions and everything. Yeah.
When I saw the length of the amount of